Digital Foundry published a new video today looking at Hitman 3, comparing it between the Xbox Series X, S, and the PlayStation 5. So get your popcorn ready because these are always very interesting, especially when you go through the comments. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Thank you for stopping by. If you are new here and you enjoyed what you see throughout this video, I would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button to join this community and help this channel grow so we can have some awesome conversations in the comments below. But for now, let's jump into this. So since before the launch of the next generation consoles, all the way back to when they revealed of the specs of the consoles, the console wars are always going on. Basically, people debating which console is going to be more powerful, which one is going to be better for multi-platform games, and that is something that you see throughout the entire life cycle of consoles. For the first couple of multi-platform games that were released, there seemed to be an advantage with the PlayStation 5, with it having steadier frame rates and at times better resolutions, and this was really attributed to the fact that the Xbox development kit was way newer than the PlayStation 5's, and developers did not have that much time with it, so they haven't been able to really optimize games for the Xbox Series X. With that being said, the Xbox Series X, from a specs point of view, is the more powerful console, so we should be expecting multi-platform games to run and look better on the Xbox Series X as this generation goes on. Developers have had a few more months to get their hands on the development kits and kind of learn how to work through them. Obviously, it's still very early in the life cycle, as this is going to be a console generation that probably lasts 7 to 10 years, and it will probably not be really until the end of 2021, maybe the beginning of 2022, before we really start to see the big improvements in graphics from last generation to this generation. But overall, I've said this in previous videos, I kind of think we are at a point of diminishing returns when it comes to graphics. It's just going to be adding in those better textures, those better shadows, the lighting, and the frame rates is going to be the big jump from last gen to this gen. Now, this comparison here with Hitman 3 was done through Digital Foundry. I'm sure you guys have already checked this out. If you're interested in this, they do a really great deep dive into it. So I'm just going to cut right to the chase. This is a great picture to really show it off all in one view. So the Xbox Series S runs at 1920 by 1080, so 1080p, with high textures and low shadows at 60 frames per second. PlayStation 5 runs at 3200 by 1800, so at 1800p, with ultra textures with medium shadows, and the Xbox Series X runs in full native 4K with ultra textures and high shadows. Now, all of these games are running at 60 FPS on no matter what console you have, so at the end of the day, it's pretty impressive no matter where you're playing, but it looks like the Xbox Series X has the advantage with Hitman 3. I also just want to point out again, the Xbox Series S always impresses me. Even though it's running at 1080p, the fact that the $300 console is able to get those 60 frames per second with high textures, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. Now, when it comes to the frame rates and how steady they are, they're all very steady across all three consoles. There's only one area they say here, so they say, with just one exception in our hours of play in the Mendoza mission set in Argentina, it is possible to see the Xbox consoles run between 50 to 60 FPS around a field towards the outskirts of the level. So this is literally in one certain area of the level. It may drop between 50 to 60, which is not a deal at all. But it is really funny to see some of the responses in the comments because of this one tiny little drop that they mentioned in the article. So this is the original Digital Foundry tweet where they talk about the article. They talk about their discoveries of comparing the three games all across the three platforms. And you see obviously this video here where they're showing the difference in resolutions, but their comments are pretty funny because people say another PS5 better frame rate, most powerful console. Stable 60 FPS over slightly higher resolution for me. If you see the review, all consoles are rock solid 60 FPS aside from a slight dip in one or two specific areas that affect the S and the X, indicating it's an IO problem that is easily addressed with a patch. Series X is 2160p and at high, while PS5 is 1800p with more at medium. So that's the funny thing about these comments, is that in the article, in the review, or in the comparison, you can say, they literally talk about that frame drop and specify that it is in one tiny area of the game, but people just latch onto that and use it as the end all and be all for these comparisons, which just completely blows my mind. Because if somebody like me, I'm looking at this and I just want to know what the facts are. It doesn't really matter. It's cool to see that the Xbox Series X is the better performing console with this game, But if they said that the PlayStation 5 was the better performing console, but the Xbox Series X had no frame rate drops and the PS5 had one small frame rate drop, the PS5 would still be the better performing console at the end of the day. The big difference for me when looking at this comparison, for me at least, is that the ultra textures and the high shadows on the Series X versus the ultra textures and the medium shadows on the PlayStation 5, that's where you really see that GPU power come in with the Xbox Series X. That's how you know that it is a more powerful console, that it can run at native 4K at 60 frames per second and still get those high shadows in the game. Now, obviously, this is only January and the Xbox Series X came out in November, and the actual GDKs for the Xbox Series X were only really certified in June of 2020. So there's still been a short period of time that devs have been able to play around with it. But we are definitely starting to see the benefits of the more powerful Xbox Series X once developers can completely get their minds wrapped around it. And this is from Digital Foundry as well. And here is the quote saying, "People may be making jokes about the tools getting better here, but I have heard that build performance has indeed increased over time since the launch on the Xbox Series X. GPU compiler and stuff can be pretty important for GPU performance." So it's good news. I mean, it's coming faster than expected, and I just can't wait to see what more can be done once developers completely understand the dev kits. But at the end of the day, the game runs great on all three consoles. You're going to have better resolution and better shadows on the Xbox Series X. And if you just look at it logically, you step back from the console wars or being a fanboy of any type, is that the Xbox Series X on paper is the more powerful console, and it should generally perform better as we go through this generation with multi-platform games. It will really be up to the developers on how they utilize the GDK, but as we can see with Hitman 3, it's the beginning. They're starting to wrap their heads around it, and once they do, it will most likely be the more powerful console throughout the generation. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you think that the Xbox Series X is going to be the more powerful console throughout the generation? What do you guys think about that frame rate drop in that one specific area of the game that is shown off in this comparison, and people using that as the main reason to say that the game performs better on the PlayStation 5? Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you are new here and you enjoyed what you see throughout this video, I would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button to join this community, help this channel grow so we can have some awesome conversations in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.